Hey everybody, I hope you've had a good weekend. And as you're wrapping up the trait approach, good job on the trait discussions and reflections. And I hope you found the trait questionnaire assessment helpful as you uh, assessed your own traits and leadership ability. And we will do an assessment with each one of these units as a way of application so that we focus not only on the theory but also the practice. So this video presentation focuses on the skills approach, and what we're going to do here is briefly describe the skills approach and explain how it works, and then discuss the strengths and weaknesses, and then how it fits into the leadership process model and the theory matrix. So, okay, let's get started. The skills approach is a leader-centered perspective like the trait approach, but its emphasis is on skills and abilities that can be learned and developed. So instead of, as the trait approach is perhaps leadership for a few based upon their traits, the skills approach would say leadership is for anyone and everyone that can learn leadership skills and use those skills and capabilities to accomplish a set of goals and objectives. So there's two major studies that have helped develop this skill approach. The first was by Katz back in 1955, and their research focused on three skills: technical skill, human skill, and conceptual skill. Now, Nordhaus will explain these in detail. Technical skill involves specialized competencies, tools and techniques, the use of technology, analytical ability, such as accountants and financial leaders, ability to analyze numbers and information, use technology. A second skill is the human skill, which involves interpersonal people skills, and you probably recognize this from ALEC 102. This is the center of ALEC 102, and this is, again, skills to communicate, understand others' perspectives, empathy, trust, empowerment, and those human skills are a vital part of leading people, motivating and influencing others. And then there's conceptual skill, which is the ability to shape the meaning of an organization and to take its mission and values and develop a strategic plan. For example, Netflix, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, in 2013, they had 1 billion revenue, and they developed a long-term strategy to become the world's leading internet subscription service. And their core strategy involved becoming the best global entertainment distribution service and creating markets that were accessible, that made entertainment products accessible to global audiences. So 5 years later, they have over 125 million subscribers. They're the largest company, and they're worth over $60 billion. Now, there were some leaders in that company that understood how to take that missions and values and develop a plan and conceptualize how that could be accomplished and what they could do and how they could achieve that. So all three of those skills, while different, are a vital part of the skills approach: the technical skill, the human skill, and the conceptual skill. And what Katz argued was that depending on your level of management, so for example, at entry level, you may have high technical, high human, but the big picture conceptual skill may not be there as much, as this is focused on the hows and the to-dos and the steps. Then you have middle management where they're all there, and then top management where these are emphasized even more so than the technical. So this could be debated, and we may have different views on that. What is interesting, I think, to know is in all of this, there was early on the recognition that this human skill, this ability to understand people, communicate with people, motivate people, get along with people, was vital to leadership. So that three-skill approach was one major development in the skill approach. And the second one was the skills model, which was a study of 1,800 military leaders in the 90s that was completed in 2000 by Mumford and his associates. And their aim was to identify the leadership factors or skills that created exemplary job performance in an organization. And again, they were emphasizing capabilities, not just what leaders do. And they broke this down into three major categories: the individual attributes of a leader, the competencies that they developed, which then produced these outcomes. So, and the major competencies that they focused on were problem-solving skills and social judgment skills and knowledge, which, again, Nordhaus will break these down for us. But problem-solving skills, the ability to solve problems, and this makes sense if you're working with a nonprofit that's having decreasing volunteers. You have to identify the problems of that and figure out solutions to that. If you want to start a student organization, you've got to identify a mission, a vision, a purpose, but then how are you going to recruit students and what causes are you going to pursue? I've been consulting with a company in Wisconsin, a large nonprofit that has had 50% turnover in the workers with kids. So they're trying to identify those problems so that they can develop solutions. So a significant skill for leadership is problem-solving ability. The other is social judgment. And again, this is a lot of interpersonal skills, the ability to understand people and the culture of an organization, kind of take the perspective, understand people's needs, the motivation, the goals, understand what's going on in the organization, being able to adapt yourself to people and needs as you lead them. So this is heavy on the people orientation. And then, of course, the knowledge and information skills and the ability to organize that knowledge and present that knowledge. So, and all three of those competencies were skills: the problem-solving skills, the social judgment skills, people skills, if you will, and then knowledge were a part of the competencies that leaders had. They also recognized that each leader brought individual attributes to this. Their own intelligence and cognitive ability, the crystallized cognitive ability, which is just learning over time, learning by experience. And some of you mentioned that your own leadership understanding has grown out of experience. And then your own motivational, how willing are you to lead? How eager are you to have influence? And the good that you want to do, plus your personality characteristics. So, and they put this together and said those individual attributes plus these competencies produce effective problem-solving skills and allow the leader to perform their duties. They then added an element mentioning that career experiences and environmental influences, career experiences being challenging assignments, mentoring, training, hands-on experience. And what they were saying is these skills developed in this way. And you've experienced this. Some of you have had some great mentors, or you've had some challenging assignments or training that further developed your skills. And then they noted the environmental influences that develop skills, which these are situations that are outside of competencies and characteristics, but provide experience and challenging experiences to develop further problem-solving skills and capabilities. So, for example, one external influence that we had when we were running the coffee shop is sometimes there was a shortage of coffee beans from different countries, so we had a shortage of certain kinds of coffee. And you have to adjust, figure out solutions, and figure out what you're going to do. that's a simple one, but they noted in this model that you have these individual attributes, you have skills and competencies that you learn, but then those are enhanced by experiences and enhanced by some of the environmental struggles. And that collectively, the leader begins to be very effective at problem solving, being able to perform their job. So those are the two major research approaches to the skills approach. And now let's just look briefly at how the skills approach is used and some of its strengths and weaknesses. It does help identify the skills that are important to leadership. It applies to leaders at all levels. The skills inventory, which you will take, provides some insights into your own leadership competencies. And really, the skills could become a framework for how you would build leadership development as you work to develop those problem-solving skills, social judgment skills, people skills. We've designed ALEC 2 around the development of that people skill development. So the skills approach allows us to do that well. It makes leadership available to everyone. It's an expansive view of leadership because you have a variety of elements from problem solving, social judgment, and other kinds of skills. It's consistent with leadership education. It does have some weaknesses or criticisms. The breadth of the skill development is wide and becoming more general. For example, problem-solving skills are good for everyone, not just leaders. It's weak in predictive value, and what this means is there hasn't been a lot of studies or research to determine how the skills lead to effective leadership performance. Most skills training don't use these models, and most don't test to see if the training actually improves the leadership outcomes. So some of you may have been involved in leadership training, but after that training, was there tests and assessments done to see whether the training actually was improving the outcomes? There isn't a lot of research on that with the skills approach. And then some of the individual attributes like intelligence and experience, personality, those are more trait-like. So really, in many ways, this skills approach it starts to adopt a little bit of the trait approach, because if you go back to this model, this is really about traits and this is about skills. So that's a criticism of it, that it's not entirely skill-based. So, okay, so just thinking about our leadership process model, here we go. The skills approach is, again, leader-centered. And the skills that the leader can develop, it's less about the follower and the context. It does involve some of the leadership process, because some of these skills, like the interpersonal skills or problem-solving skills, do help influence these outcomes. So when you go to your theory matrix again, you're taking the skill approach and saying, what are the implications for the leader, the followers, the context, the process of influence, and the outcomes. So that is the skills approach. And in this unit, you will have some small group discussion that will include working through the skills assessment. And then you will have the quiz and the reflection that you will do at the end. And then we'll move on to the behavioral unit. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to text me or email me, and have a good week.